Hi, I'm Matt Tennant. I'm the senior minister here at University Baptist Church. And this series of videos is to answer some of the basic questions people have when they look at our church and think about coming and checking us out. This first video is why be Baptist? Being a Baptist is about freedom. It's about making choices between you and God. Baptists have a rich history. We didn't invent faith or Christianity. We came out of other traditions. In the early 17th century, some Anglicans realized that they were seeing things a little different than their established church. In England, they became known as the Separatists, and they were pretty radical. And that's where the Baptist story really begins. They decided to baptize themselves and those others who joined with them, and that's really where that history of believers' baptism, making a choice between you and God and deciding to be a part of the Christian faith began. Baptists rest our tradition on several freedoms, and really it's all about freedom. There's soul freedom, church freedom, freedom from authority, and biblical freedom. Biblical freedom is something that we share with a number of traditions in the Reformed churches, and that is sola scriptura in Latin, but only scripture in English is the idea that we're talking about. And that idea is that the Bible is the centerpiece of who we are. So everything we do goes back to filtering it through that lens of Scripture. What does the Bible say about this? That also means that we take a critical view of Scripture. We study it closely, try to understand what it was saying at the time for its original audience and what that means for us today. It doesn't mean that we ascribe to some sort of inerrancy or some sort of idea where we hold Scripture up as God. Scripture is what shapes our understanding of God. Another idea that we hold as Baptists is the idea of the autonomy of the local church. No one but God is above our local congregation. So when you check out University Baptist and we say, this is what being a part of this family of faith looks like, there's no one who can come in and tell us, hey, don't do it that way anymore. We as a church, as a congregation, as a family, get to set our own rules as we understand God is calling us to set them. Another element that we hold dear is the separation of church and state. We don't have an American flag in our sanctuary, and that's not because we don't appreciate the United States and the freedom that we have living in this country. It's because that we believe when we come into the sanctuary, this is God's house and God's space. And we believe firmly in the separation of church and state. So when I am preaching during an election season and I tell people to go vote, I tell people to go pray and vote. But that's it. I'm not going to endorse a candidate. No one in our church will. We also believe in soul freedom. That is the priesthood of all believers. Between you and God, no one stands. No one is between you and God. So when you consider what God is saying to you, you come together with a family. That's one of the things that we hold dear as Baptists. You get to come together and wrestle with the questions of today. But there's no priest, there's no bishop, there's no higher authority other than God that will come and tell you what you should think or believe. This is part of this journey where we all ask questions, struggle, wrestle, and grow together. This is just a hint of what it means to be Baptist. As University Baptist Church, we don't criticize or look down on any other tradition. So if you've been a lifelong Methodist or Episcopalian or Catholic and you want to check us out, you are welcome, and you won't hear us say anything critical about your tradition or another nearby tradition, because we appreciate that all of us are fallen and in need of God's grace. This is just how we practice our faith journey. I'd like to invite you to check us out and learn more about what it means to be University Baptist Church. Thanks so much for watching.